Hello, everyone. Welcome back. It's me, Atlas, your favorite relationship coach. Listen, it's been a long time, and I wanted to jump back on because I just miss creating. I miss sharing. I miss teaching. I miss coaching. I miss being a part of your journey and also sharing parts of mine. And so, what I wanted to do today was give you a update, or rather, maybe an informational session on why I changed my name. Because you don't really hear about people changing their name. It's a pretty far-fetched conversation. It's abrupt when it happens. Sometimes it maybe doesn't last long, or maybe it's more for a business. But I changed my name years ago, and I wanted to walk you through my process because what I believe is that there was a lot of value in what I was up to, why I did it, what came up for me during the process that I think could extend into maybe a decision you're looking to make or a change you're looking to be a part of. I think that whether it is deciding to make a name change or whether it's a change in career or a change in relationship or a change in just your life in general, there's value in everyone's decision making process. And so I wanted to let you in because it's been a couple of years now. I actually haven't made this video because it's been difficult. I didn't feel fully confident yet in sharing the ins and outs on a public platform. And so let's do this. Let's just dive right in. So I think this was 2022, about 3 years ago. I had been pondering for the majority of my life changing my last name. There is a familial connection there that I was looking to separate from. This was from my biological father. This was from just a long track of missing relationship, lack of presence, disconnection. A lot came up over the course of my life when it came to that specific person. And, this isn't a video to blame, shame, or guilt anybody for anything. It's more about what sparked the initial name change in the first place. So I had intended on changing my last name for many, many years. I had always talked, for those that don't know, I'm actually a quarter Japanese. So I have Japanese lineage. My great grandmother, she died at I believe about age 102, and she lived a full life. Her last name is Matsuda or Matsuda, and her first name is Kei. And she was an incredible person. And the name Matsuda was a very common name in our family. There wasn't a lot of name changes yet based on marriage. And so I appreciated that there was an opportunity for me to potentially move my name, my last name, to extend the lineage because I don't have that last name. I wasn't born with it. I was born with a different last name. And so there was an opportunity for me to carry the lineage because it was and is actually currently coming to a close in a lot of different areas of my family. And so I said, okay, well, I like that idea. For those that don't know, my last name, my legal last name is Rushton. And so I wanted to change it from that to Matsuda, just again, that family lineage conversation. But there was still a lot of aspects of the familial lineage that I wanted to separate from. I wanted to, at the time, start something new, build fresh, be my own person, which comes from a lot of different aspects of my upbringing. And so I vested some time into the last name. And this was actually something that Gabby and I did. We were talking a lot about what it would look like. Gabby is my partner, for those that don't know, an incredible woman. Her Instagram, her coach, her clients, her coaching program, the way that that woman operates is nothing short of miraculous. It's an honor for me to be able to be in her life. And her and I had started the conversation about changing last names. And so we started exploring, and she came across this last name that I appreciated a lot. And so we let it sit, and it was something we were going to do together. But what was interesting, and this is the premise of this conversation, is changing my first name. That was never a conversation. I never fathomed the idea of just completely changing how the world knows me to such an aggressive extent. You think about it, right? Like There's so many people I know based on their names. I know who they are. And disrupting that, saying, okay, this is now my new name, almost makes me feel like I don't know them at all. Like they're a completely new person. They're brand new. And so I didn't think about it for a long time until it really came down to the last couple months before our trip to Costa Rica. We were moving to Costa Rica to be full-time coaches abroad and do everything online. And it came up where, if I'm going to change my last name, why don't I think about the idea of just changing my first name? Because of the same conversation around starting new and starting fresh and going through this kind of death portal of who I was into who I've known I can be. And so we started having the conversation and it was fun. It was fun to play with the idea of different names, different identities. And I really, really liked the idea of bringing back old names, old Greek mythological names that just don't exist anymore. And so, it's funny to think back. One of the first ones that came up was Theseus. Can you imagine if my name was Theseus? Uh, it was one of the more laughable names that we came up with. And if anybody out there's name is Theseus, I'm sure you actually represent or come across as Theseus. It would make a lot of sense. But for me, you looking at me, I'm not a Theseus, and I couldn't bring myself to do it. And then another one that came up was just as bad, which is Icarus. It felt a little closer to like, okay, maybe, but it was still this disconnect. I didn't feel good about it. And what I recognized, and this was an important piece of the decision making process, is I never wanted to do this for my own ego. I never wanted to change my name to something that would put me on some sort of pedestal or change it simply because it sounded cool. I think that I got lost in that in the process and it had to be different. It had to be something that was in alignment with my authenticity, with my journey in life, with who I want to become, rubbing up against who I've been. It had to be something more meaningful, especially for my first name. And so I parked all those. I kind of left them alone. Obviously, when you get in there, there's so many names that come up in Greek mythology that are so unique. And I love that because, I think for me, a lot of my life, I have noticed that I have spent lacking uniqueness. I've really just been pattern replayer, system copier. It hasn't been me. And so I like the idea of starting new in a way in which I got to express authentically and uniquely. And so, again, playing with the first name, Gabby goes to work one day. And at this time, she wasn't a leader in the business. And she comes home and she's talking about this conversation she overheard with a family of theirs in the restaurant. And the family was talking about their son. And she overheard them refer to their son as Atlas. And so we're driving to a family event, her and I, later that week, and she brings this to me. She shares this story, and she says it was a cool conversation that I overheard. They were just talking, and they were talking about their son Atlas, and there was a shift that didn't happen with Theseus or Icarus. A shift happened where my body responded. Something happened internally that wanted to be a part of that. It wanted to understand that. It was really fascinating for me because I'm a man who has a tendency to disconnect from his body. And so a physiological response to something is, albeit rare. And so I was shocked and I just sat there. I was driving the car and she had said it and I just kind of like sat there. Not, I didn't know what to do. And I sat there for so long. The whole drive, this feeling wouldn't leave me. And she said it again, and I started playing with it in my head. And it was just this like, I don't want to call it out of body because I was so in body, but I was so in the clouds. I was so stretched between being grounded and flying in the sky. it was visceral in the sense that my body was, I don't want to go as far as saying tingly, but it was responding in a way that was new to me, confusing to me. And I didn't know what to do with it, but I knew something was happening. Something had been stirred. And I actually really like that because I don't often pay attention to myself in that way. So we kept driving, and I was still playing with the idea in my head and whatever, and we move on. I said, you know what? If it's going to be meant to be, this feeling won't go away. And we were leaving for Costa Rica in about 2 months, and a month passed, and I'd still just been letting it be. I don't need to make a decision right now, just let it be. And it wouldn't go away. And so what I took from that was this almost intuitive knowing that there's value in that. There's something for me in that. It doesn't mean it's the perfect answer, but there's something alive for me in that conversation referring to that specific name. And so I leaned in. And sure enough, as I explored the story behind that caricature in Greek mythology, there was so much translation into my life. And without getting too deep into the history, Atlas is seen as holding the globe up, and Atlas is also referred to as a map. How it became a map, I haven't explored yet, but how he came to be holding the globe is, well, one, incorrect. He was never holding a globe. We put that image out into the world because we created the atlas of the world, the map to the world. And so, looking deeper and further into the mythology of it all, there is a story that exists where he is holding up the heavens and the earth as punishment. It's actually his burden to carry. And it's his burden to carry because he was one of the leaders against the gods. He was one of the titans. And so he was banished, and he was forced with this burden of, instead of ending his life, they said this would be worse. And so he's holding up this connection between the two worlds. He's holding up the two worlds. He's essentially the one responsible for making sure one doesn't crash into the other. And it just got me thinking so much about my life and the weight that I carry and some of the burdens I feel I've been held responsible for, whether handed to me or whether interpreted that I need to carry. And it was this fascinating conversation where that was his burden. And now I am giving myself an opportunity to change the story. I'm giving myself the opportunity to know that I've spent my life with holding the globe up, holding up the life, if you will, making sure the two worlds don't crash too heavily. I've been holding this burden up. I've been carrying it. My shoulders are hurting. I'm tired. And now what I'm doing is I'm learning how to pick it up, put it down, and walk without the burden, but with the strength that I've gathered from holding it. And again, this all kind of just came in as I leaned into the idea of what my life could look like and how I wanted to be represented in this world. What I want, not because of somebody making a mistake or choosing incorrectly or, fuck them or screw them. It wasn't due to any sort of conversation regarding other people. It had everything to do with me when it came to my first name. Everything I wanted for me. And I did it. I just took the leap and I did it. And when I did it was at a time where I got a chance to settle into it without too many loud voices. I let myself, again, I heard the name, I waited and I settled, right? And then I invested more, but I still settled. And then 2 months later or 3 months later, I said, let's go. We went to Costa Rica, and not a single person from then on that I've met that's brand new knows me by any other name. They don't know who my name was prior. And so again, going to Costa Rica and Tulum after that, it gave me an opportunity to restructure, but also reinvent myself and also allow me to step into if what's the phrase that I used back then? What would Atlas do? Right? Again, this personification of what I want to be. How do I get there? And this name helps me continue to do that. But it also, again, represents somebody that I believe myself to be. I didn't share this earlier, but my prior name was Kyle. And I just want you to notice the distinction between that and this. Not that one is better than the other, or one is right or wrong, or that something was messed up with that, but the representation now that I have of myself in this world is in alignment with me and who I want to be and who I will continue to want to become. It just clicks where it didn't before. Because prior, I was more known by my last name anyway. And so a lot of their connection to that was really easy to dismantle. And so again, I leaned forward, and maybe this is an entirely different video, but it came with its own battles. Naturally, there's a lot of familial battles, family confusion, and concern for somebody taking that decision on. Hey, is everything okay? Like, are you good? Are you going to be okay? It's a big decision. It's kind of just throwing that all away. But also the challenge of facing the people that were a part of that heritage of that name, right? And the creators of that name, right? There's challenges that come up with that. Of course, there's friction there, and it makes complete sense because it's just such a, again, it's such a confusing decision, and I get that. And so my hope for anyone who's ever been curious about it, whether they are curious about why I did it or whether you're curious about doing it yourself, is that it wasn't something that I took lightly. It wasn't something spur of the moment, and it wasn't something that I just said, fuck it, let's do it. It was something that I said, I'm thinking about it. Let's explore. And that for me is the part of the decision making process that helped a lot. It took the pressure off. It doesn't have to happen, but it'd be cool to explore what that could look like. And as I did, it started to open up more into something that really made sense to me. And it didn't have to make sense to everybody else. And that's okay. I've had to deal with a lot of friction from that, but that's okay. Because what I knew is that it was good for me, felt right for me. So I took action. And again, now it's been about 3 years, and I still come up against people who refer to me as the prior name, and it's all good, right? Because what I know to be true is that I'll just correct them and we'll move on, and it's not a big deal. Whereas I know that there's been scenarios where someone has made a change, someone didn't acknowledge it, and then there's frustration. Like, how could you not know or understand that about me? And for me, I'm not really looking for somebody to necessarily understand me because I understand me. And so if they misunderstand me, well, that's okay. I don't mind explaining what I'm up to, the why, the intent, because not only do I know that there's so much purpose in the things that I do, but that I can also actually support other people in the things they're up to by just sharing what I'm up to. And here we go, hence this video. So I wanted to give you an insight around that, why I changed my name to Atlas, and some of the pieces of the conversation that were alive during that. I'll make a secondary video about the challenges that have come with that, and the things that I've had to rub up against and what that's actually been like. But for now, I just wanted to hop on and start a conversation about it. If you're interested in talking more about it, toss some notes in the comments. I'd love to just chat about it. It's a big decision if you're thinking about it, and I understand a lot of the fear and a lot of the concern, but also a lot of the excitement and what to do with that. If I had to leave you with anything, slow down. It doesn't need to be today. It can be in a month. It can be in a year. It took me years to have this conversation in an intentional way because of the fear, and that's okay. There's no urgency to it. You know who you are, you know who you want to become, and whether the name is changed or whether it isn't, you get the opportunity to express that just by your actions today. So take that, explore it, and then let it be. and then explore it again and let it be. And if it is something that you feel is a necessity for your life, like I did, then do it. I fully support you, even if nobody else does. And if you don't, that's okay too. That's all I got for today. I appreciate you watching. Thanks for coming in. If you're interested in coaching or being a part of my relationship journey, follow me at atlas.relationshipcoach. I share a lot more content on there. But welcome back to the YouTube scene. I'm excited to be here. Love y'all. See you later.